In this episode of Relax and Take Notes, I sit down with Love Dorsey, where we discuss modern women, traditional men, and the state of the black family. Check it out. Do black men and black women actually have a problem? Or is this something that's just really kind of like exacerbated by way of social media? Is there a disconnect between black men and black women?
If we're going to talk about the majority and what's happening with the changes culturally with us, and this is for, black Americans, Western culture, black people that are a part of, the U.S., yes.
We do.
We do.
We do.
In my experience, in what I've seen, what I've been through, we do.
Okay. So given that there is a disconnect, let's do our best to kind of peel back the onion, right?
Okay.
To try to get to the root of the disconnect. And it may not be one thing, it may be several things, right? That have come historically,
right.
And even during modern times, right? Because you have this whole notion of the modern woman.
Yeah.
Right? This whole modern woman piece. Does the modern woman lend to the disconnect?
She does, but I want to say this. She does, but not from that viewpoint where people think we need to, go back.
Okay.
Or, turn back into the non-modern woman, so to speak. And the reason why I say that is because the world is evolving. Rights have changed for women. Opportunities have changed for us. We have changed in regards to us knowing our abilities, in regards to going out into the world, earning power with businesses, standing up for ourselves in rooms where historically men dominated, right? And I'm saying this because as technology advances, as the world changes, as the economy and inflation and all kind of things take place, we shouldn't be trying to, go back as women. But what we should be doing is staying on top of and being more aware of what the new changes affect in our home life, in our relationships, in our family, how we parent, right? Because even women are going to acknowledge that we're different.
Right.
We're standing up for ourselves. We're moving different. All these things I named. And if you're real, this stuff affects our relationships, our home life, our family, the way we raising our babies, the way we carry ourselves with one another.
Okay.
So as we evolve, the understanding of relationships and how aware we are of our behavior has to evolve too.
I agree with that. But let me ask you this though. How does, I guess, if there's a modern woman, there has to be a modern man, right? Or some variation of it. But how do traditional men who think in old school type of ways, right? How do they successfully enter into, maintain, and sustain relationships with a modern woman who may be a CEO of her own brand, 6-7 figures out the gate? How does a traditional man who thinks traditionally, right, have a successful relationship with a modern woman? Or is it even possible?
So I'm going to say this. You can't if she is not aware of the things that I was just talking about.
Okay.
So when you look at modern women, if you meet one of these modern women and you're interested in pursuing her and building a life or a family, if you are, one of the men like what you're referring to, if this woman is not aware of how different she has become with the times from what type of woman, a old school man,
right,
a provider, a protector, that one that I am head of household. If this woman is unaware of traditionally what type of woman fits with that man, and she's unaware of her differences or how far off she is from that particular type of woman, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work. She's not going to allow you influence over her behavior, the household. Now, if she's aware, and as a traditional man, you can have conversations with her and point out certain things that need to be adjusted or new agreements that need to be made in order for us to, grow and build and, create a family and allow me to lead. Even though you earn a bag that may be just as much as mine, the sky's the limit.
Okay.
But the answer is no if that woman is not aware of this.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this is why for me, like, a lot of what I do on my platform, I try to help women become more aware of what we have become, how far off we are from our great-great-grandmother, or, how much we have progressed in regards to rights and the way we carry ourselves. Our attitude has changed towards men vastly. And when
Okay.
I say, our attitude, I'm speaking in general because it's not hard to look around the culture and see that women, in general, if we're just talking about a majority, because I know people are going to look at this
Yeah,
and say,
there's
well,
always
she can't
variations.
speak for all,
Right, yeah,
right? But
yeah.
if we're going to go off statistics, the majority in our culture views men differently now that we're earning and building and doing things that we, could not do years ago or decades ago.
So what I'm sensing, or what I'm kind of hearing, right, is a shift in the power dynamic.
Yeah.
Right. Primarily as it relates to resources. Right. So, but for a man who thinks traditionally, if he's not the primary breadwinner, meaning that if he's not the one who makes the majority of the money, does he see himself in a diminished role, or have a diminished value of himself in a relationship with a woman who may be, earning 2-3 times more than he does?
So here's where, and I love what you're asking me. Here's where I feel that men need to take more accountability in regards to brotherhood, right?
Okay.
It is not difficult to see that without a woman even being any kind of way, men themselves get in relationships and they feel some type of way about not being able to earn what they want. And I'm going to elaborate before anybody, kind of go left with it.
Right.
There are a lot of guys that, they are in their career, whether it's a skilled worker. I don't care if you work in, infrastructure or, whatever industry, right?
Right.
A male-dominated industry where you are a working man and you are earning, I'm not going to say your highest potential, but you're earning what you feel is decent for yourself.
Okay.
When you run across or connect or, get you one of these modern women, if it's a situation like what you described where she is out earning you, as a brotherhood, I feel like men need to have more conversations where, you talk to one another about handling your ego, processing your feelings as a man that come along with coming home to a woman that is out earning you.
Okay.
And this is before we even get into
And-
how this woman may or may not act.
Okay.
Men just need to be more honest with themselves, not in the presence of us as women, but you guys, and you can tell me if you disagree, but you guys as men, as bros, as homeboys, like
Right.
just talking about these type of things. Like, bro, you got a bad one now. She got businesses and shit going on, and
Right.
certain things, like you got to make sure you still are aware of your value as a man, even though she may be bringing home more dollars than
Right.
you. You still got to be able to put your foot down, bro, in your household.
Right.
You still have to step up and check your area or your level of self-esteem without this woman even speaking on it. Make sure you feel good about yourself enough
First.
to be able to, live in this type of environment.
Right.
Because a lot of men are in these situations, and without the woman being any sort of way, there is a space of low self-esteem, or most females usually call it jealousy, but I know it's a man just feeling a way about himself.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
really not a man jealous of a woman.
Right.
It's these type of things that men need to talk about more, especially with the younger brothers, so that as they come up and they are interacting and dating these type of women, they can check themselves at the door so a woman does not have to.
Let me give you this example, because this is something that happened to a friend of mine, and he talked about it in the barbershop. He's a barber,
Okay.
right? And he was with his woman for the better part of 12 years. He put her through law school.
Okay.
Earning as a barber,
Yep.
right? She was a full-time student, went on to law school, and got her law degree and began to practice, right? About 3 or 4 years into her practice, she was making mid 6 figures, easy, right? And the relationship fell apart.
Right.
And he was devastated by it, and he was very resentful because he put her through school.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He did, in his mind, all the right things, but when
Right.
she got to that position where she was probably quadrupling what he was making, right? it was a change in the power dynamic in the household, and he felt diminished as a man. He didn't know how to handle that. Right? What would you say to a man who finds himself in that situation? Maybe not with the relationship ending, but it's rocky right now because he's not sure of himself. Right? And she is very sure of herself and her earning potential and everything that means in terms of trips and you know, we doing this and we're not doing that. What would you recommend to a man who finds himself in that situation?
So this is exactly why I just said what I said, before you shared that particular scenario. This needs to be a regular topic in rooms of men.
Right.
Because women are taking strides and steps where we're not out earning men in general, but we're taking steps to where we're gaining access to, leveling up in life at a faster pace.
Right.
Like the person you're describing, men are helping us. The men that we're dating are wanting to see us do that. So these conversations need to be had because a man needs to understand, as you see your woman advance in life and it gets to the point where she reaches a certain level of, she has more power than what she normally had. You got to continue to check your ego and make sure that there are things about yourself as a man that hold value outside of this before y'all start measuring wallets.
Right.
The other part of it is, before, and I'm saying this to men, young, old, before you start pouring into a woman, right, and helping her build, you have to have certain conversations in regards to the dynamic of family and your views. You got to have understanding of how this woman thinks in regards to households and the hierarchy of family. Because if she does not understand that the power that women hold and the power that men hold are completely different,
not the same,
right? And that men overall are better leaders, right? And women, we are better at things in a lot of different areas that men are not. But if you don't understand this, you will feel like once I'm earning as much as he's earning, or even from the male perspective, a lot of times guys will feel like, well, she make just as much as I make, and then you start mixing the roles, right?
Okay.
And the issue with that is, by nature, men are designed to lead. There is something, in you, in your biology as a male, that's going to push to the front. Right. And we can get into the
assertiveness,
of,
the aggression, the testosterone, all of that.
We can get into what's affecting a lot of the men that aren't stepping into leadership roles. But to go back to what I was saying, when you get ready to pour into a woman, as a wife, as a girlfriend, as a partner, if you two young adults, you have to make sure you have an understanding with each other, of, the roles in this relationship.
Okay. It's interesting you say that because I hear. Well, let me go back to this thing right here. This is what came to mind as I'm listening to you. The conversations amongst men, right? There has to be a clear definition of what manhood is.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right now, that particular word has so much ambiguity around it, right? You ask 5 men, what is their definition of manhood? You're going to get 17 different answers. You know what I mean? Men are not clear in regards to what manhood is. And so for me, this is how I define manhood. Manhood is rooted in confidence, right? Having the confidence to know that you have the ability, not that you know everything, but you have the ability to solve problems. And you step into problem solving with confidence. Right? And that in and of itself, to your point, puts you in a leadership role. It doesn't matter what the issue is. Stepping into it, knowing that you have the confidence within yourself to either solve it directly or using resources, references, or what have you to get that job done. What do you think about that?
I agree with what you said 100%. And this is why I said, earlier, in men's circles, you guys need to have these conversations more, because you're saying what I'm saying, just with a little bit more elaboration on it. The conversations need to be had amongst men about where your value and power lies without a woman involved. Right.
First,
without measuring the checks, like regardless of what we make, you have to understand, like you said, I am a man. Here is why. Here is where the facts of me being a man lies, and nobody could take that from me.
Nobody,
So a
right.
woman out earning me, changes in the household, certain, fights or arguments we may go through, ups and downs, it does not change that I am a man. And men, need to really empower each other through more conversations about this. The other side of that is upbringing. When you talk about the different definitions of what men have about what a man is, it comes from upbringing. And when you look at our culture and you check the facts, right? Because this is where a lot of people get triggered.
Right, they do.
You check the facts. A lot of men that women complain about, a lot of the ways of men that women complain about as we evolve, it has to do with their upbringing and who raised them, right? And so when we look at this, when I speak to women, when I talk to a lot of men, they're growing up in single mother-headed households.
Let's talk about it.
And so the first thing that triggers people when I start talking about this is the fact that women believe if I can get my kids through high school and into some sort of college or, some sort of trade or on a decent job,
a career path,
I did a good job. But when you talk to every adult well above 30, right? They will tell you it's more to life than just landing a good job and being able to pay the basic level bills.
Right.
Your mental health, your mindset, your confidence in yourself as a man and or a woman plays a huge role in your quality of life. And this is why we see people who papered up, right? On the outside, it looks great, but when you talk to them, they hurt it.
They hurt.
They going through
emotionally,
stuff.
they damaged.
Struggle to keep healthy relationships.
Yeah.
Companionship is difficult. The idea of socializing bothers a lot of people. They hide behind the material stuff, the cars, the money, the other things that make them feel better about themselves. It's a struggle to process their emotions. It's a struggle to see things from multiple perspectives.
Right.
Because what we don't want to be honest about is when you're raised in a household where you only see one gender problem solve, one gender pay bills, one gender run a household, one gender discipline you, one gender talk about the world, one gender interact with family, you don't have a balanced view of the world. Because when you get out in the world, it's two genders.
Right.
It's multiple sides to how you problem solve. There's multiple ways to go about running a household. There's multiple ways to discipline. But when you've only had a mother raising you, right, you have a one-sided view, and it will show up in your character.
It will show up.
May not show up in your bill paying, or rather you finish school, or rather you able to land a job. It will show up in your character some way, shape, or form in regards to emotional management, multiple perspectives, being able to view things from different angles. So this affects compromise. It affects conflict resolution.
Negotiating.
It affects your ability to not take things personal or make assumptions. It affects a lot for a lot of us your sexuality. It affects your ability to understand your attachment styles and make strides to change towards a healthy attachment style.
Okay.
So it's like we really got to start being honest with ourselves about what's going on. So, back to what you first brought up, men need to have more conversations amongst men, encouraging one another to really understand what it means to be a man. Right? Outside of a woman. Don't blame us for, whatever it is that you misunderstand about being a man. Go get around men and get a well-rounded view. And when you talk to me about well-rounded view, I believe every man, if you're trying to become this best version of yourself, you should have male peers that are younger than you, male associates or peers that are in your same age category, and then some that are older than you. This gives you that balance. The younger dudes gonna help you keep an understanding of what's coming. The older cats gonna help you keep an understanding of where we came from as men, and what you need to keep your eye on, and what certain things, certain values to hold on to. And your peers will keep you on pace, right, with advancing if you're around stand-up men. And I feel like that's something that men need to get without mentioning women. Regardless of your upbringing, even if you were raised by a single mother, go get around men to develop your character as a man.
I oftentimes say when I'm in the barbershop, I have conversations with the brothers in the barbershop all the time, right? And most of them are a lot younger than I am. They always say, Unc, let's develop a relationship, right? They see how I pull up, they see the sweat, they see everything, right?
Yeah.
And I always say that I'm here.
Yeah.
And there's hardly any follow-up.
Yep.
And I ask them why. And I think that a part of it is because social media has them thinking that they can just listen to a 60-second clip of an OG,
Yep.
and they get it.
Yep.
Without the proper context,
Yep.
without enough depth, without zero analysis,
Yep.
and they think they got the game.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And to me, that causes them to think, I don't need to have a real authentic relationship with this OG, or as we used to say back in the day, sitting at the feet of the elders.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Really getting that game and getting that perspective in a real way.
The part that's missing from that is when you talk about sitting at the feet of the elders, it has to be done consistently.
Consistently.
In psychology, there's the term conditioning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, people have heard, through clips online and reels and things like that, shifting your paradigms or changing your mindset.
Right.
You change your mindset, which is just your beliefs, the things that were programmed into you. You change them through repetition.
Repetition.
Unlearn, relearn, or
relearn.
condition yourself.
I like
so the
that.
idea is they do need to follow up, right? What needs to be understood by younger dudes and what men in general, outside of women, need to take responsibility for is changing what you guys tell one another is the cool thing, or the swaggy thing,
Right,
or the
exactly,
hip thing, or
right.
you can say it
Right,
however you want.
right.
But niggas need to tell niggas more real shit
Right.
about what is the real hype.
What's real?
The
Exactly.
real, like you say,
Manhood, fatherhood.
right?
Yeah, all of that.
There
Yeah.
was a time,
Real responsibility.
in history where yes, the cool thing, the hip thing, was to build a family, stand on business as a man, and,
Right.
and the business we talking about is having a reputation to be respected.
Right.
Providing for yourself, your seeds that you created, the family that you built or brought together, even if you're not a married man, but you're in a circle of family, whether you got sisters, brothers, homeboys, whatever community,
Right.
being a stand-up guy in that. Someone to be respected, being able to take a straightening where you, your dogs, your homeboys, your fellow men can come
Can
to you,
check
and
you.
when you wrong, we can check one another in a space of, I'm finna teach you. Right? And if
Right.
there is discipline to be had, we'll have that. And you will be willing to receive that, right? Without retaliation.
Right.
These are the things that men need to tell men is the cool shit.
So true. But again, when that young boy is being raised by one gender,
Yep. Come on.
he's oftentimes not emotionally
Yep.
balanced enough to even take straightening.
Yeah. And this is when you see, platforms like mine and people like me that I'm passionate about, families in our community. This is when you see me tell women flat out, shut the fuck up.
Right.
These boys need their fathers. These young girls need their fathers. The balance is needed. And so really, okay, so for any young men that may watch this and they in that space, like they got some OGs they can go to, but they're not consistently showing up in that space with that OG to repeatedly get that game. At some point, you got to take accountability that I know there was something wrong with the way I was raised. And so to confront that, to take ownership, to take control of my life, I need to make it a priority without blaming my mama or any woman to just show up as a man in the rooms where the information is at. The information to do better. The information to think differently. The information to just gain a new perspective on life. And it's not because there's just anything wrong with me. If I want growth, if I want advancement, if I want the stuff I see the OG got, even if it's just peace of mind. Because some people's, big homies or OGs ain't got more money than them.
Right.
But the man got a certain peace or swagger
Or
in
wisdom.
regards to moving through life where he's not easily moved.
Right.
Nick can't come and just have him trick himself off the streets over an argument or a disagreement
Right.
or a female. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? So it's certain things that, again, men need to have more conversations with men about where their power lies. Because especially as a black man, there is an immense amount of power in being able to have a real control or handle on your emotions.
Right.
What you respond or react to. What conversations you partake in and which ones you leave alone. What type of women you are pursuing or entertaining, or that you allow to have any sort of influence in your life. These are the things that just take the women out the room.
Right.
Men just need to start having these conversations, and then the other side, there is
That's
that
what
stuff.
that's what we was
that
gonna get to.
females need
Right.
to be honest about, and it's without men in the room. We
Right.
just need to be real.
We all just need to be real. Let me ask you this. So we touched on, right, what men need to do. That brotherhood.
Yep.
Right. Younger men, our peers,
Yep.
same age, same generation, OGs, elders, what have you.
Can I ask you a question on
Yeah,
that
go
point,
ahead.
right? Because I often ask men this because I'm really looking for that in-depth other side perspective.
Uh-huh.
There is this. It's been spoke on a lot, and there's this thing in the community where you hear women say, "Well, more of these men need to come get involved because a lot of these daddies ain't, showing up." And we'll get into that. But more of these men need to come and get involved and help with these young boys and things like that. Do you have a opinion or a perspective or any experience with why more men aren't involved in just helping the community in general in regards to just the young boys?
That's a great question. I think that men oftentimes don't get involved because they're so focused on their individual success, number one, right? Trying to get to the bag or maintain the bag or build the bag, right? That's number one. Number two, the fact that they oftentimes have come up in broken homes.
Yeah.
They don't have the heart, so to speak,
Right.
of what it, the fulfillment that you get from seeing a young son or a young boy eyes lighten up to something that you just taught him or something that he just learned. You know what I mean?
Right.
Let me share this because this is my passion as well, love. I remember my son, who at the time was about 4 years old. He went to the restroom and he was pointing that he had on briefs and he didn't know what the little split was in the underwear. Right? He used to just pull them down to his ankles, right? And I'm like, you don't have to do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can just open it up in the front
It's so
and
funny
handle
you
your
say
business.
this.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And the look on his face when he learned he no longer had to pull his underwear down to his knees to urinate.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's something that a woman probably would never have taught him.
It's so crazy that you shared that because okay, so my fiance, right? I have the pleasure of watching him parent and really make serious moves towards his parental rights with his children. And his son, exact same experience, literally to a T. There are times where I'm on the phone with him and I can hear him coaching his son through using the restroom, and same exact verbiage. Boy, don't pull your pants all the way down, like they don't want nobody to see your behind.
Right.
All you got to do is pull it down in the front or pull it through the hole, pee, shake it off, put it up.
Right.
And you can tell that. For me, okay, so it's a beautiful experience for me to even hear or watch this because, as a woman, these are things that I ain't thinking about.
Right.
And I'm one of those women that's real enough to admit I'm not thinking about that kind of stuff.
Right.
I got nephews and young boys in my family that I'm helping raise, and that's not one of the things that's on the front of my brain. So it showed me more and more how bad. Right? Men need that experience, and boys need that experience with men helping them through seeing the full perspective on stuff like that. Because it seems small, and the average hood mama will probably be like, "Oh, that's not no big deal."
No, it's a big deal.
He'll figure it out when he get older. Like other men that in every man that I've seen, bring up something like this, including my fiance, it is a serious thing
It's a serious
for that
thing.
young man to learn how to use the restroom properly.
What's good, family? Real quick, if you or anyone you know is dealing with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or diabetic blood sugar, the solution is here, and it's olive leaf extract. Olive leaf extract will naturally lower high blood pressure as well as high cholesterol and help balance diabetic blood sugar. For more information, go to shopmyoliveleaf.com or call 678-554-5754. And it lends itself back to that point I was saying about manhood, the confidence.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be 9-10 years old still pulling your pants down to your knees, and now all of a sudden your peers are clowning you because you ain't figured that part out yet. Because somebody actually has to come and teach you that. Otherwise, you may not know until way later on in life. So that part of it, in terms of our sons going out in the world totally undeveloped. Right? Underdeveloped or not prepared for the real things. And I ain't talking about just staying out of trouble.
Right.
Like you said, being able to be emotionally balanced.
Yep.
Knowing what type of woman is for you and
Yep.
what not, and who's not for you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Energetically.
Yes.
All of that lends itself to your point, having conversations with men and even allowing those men who see your particular disposition and say, hey, based on what I see in you,
Yep.
you may need to date this type of woman.
Yep.
Or, you know, you
Yep.
go into a relationship with this type of queen.
Yes.
Stay away from this type of queen because
Yep.
she may be too much for
Yep.
you. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And don't just get enamored by what it is you
Yeah.
see. Understand that women are beautiful, but all women, just like all people,
Ain't for
have an
you.
energy.
Yes.
You see what I'm
Yes,
saying?
and it may not match with yours. May not be the same frequency.
And that may not make the person a bad person because, like you said, all energy don't resonate.
Yeah.
It ain't supposed to.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So
Yes.
knowing how to navigate energetically is also important. You know what I mean? But the other part of it is, like I said, the lack of confidence with the young kings being raised in a home with just one gender, right? And then not really understanding male authority.
Yeah.
I tell my sons all the time, whenever you're in having an interaction with a man, there's always the possibility of violence.
Yes.
So we as men, we have this unspoken rule
Yes.
where we're going to treat each other with respect
Yep.
off top.
Yep.
Because we know the consequences if we don't.
Yes.
Don't
Yes.
nobody we
Yes,
learn
it
this
is a
by
necessity.
navigating. It's
It
an
is a
absolute necessity.
for a war not to start.
Absolutely.
But when you're 100% correct. When you grow up not ever having this information or this dynamic with another man, you look at what's
you
going
can be
yeah.
reckless.
Yes.
You can
Look
be
at what's
reckless
going
with your
on
mouth.
A lot of our youth.
Yeah,
Look at
you can
what's-
be reckless with your mouth. You can be reckless with your behavior. And I tell my sons, every man may not have the patience
Right.
to deal
Yes.
with an out of control 16, 17, 18-year-old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who's the size of a grown man, but still thinking like a
Yep.
6-year-old.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
So, and not to cut you off, but it sounds like pretty much your answer to my question is the same thing I've been saying, is that the lack of experience raising boys themselves and them being raised by a, man, meaning a young boy being raised by a father, that lack of experience and then the lack of them raising their own a lot of times has them disconnected from getting in the community and
Absolutely.
helping raise the boys that are just in their hood or in their community.
Right. And when I have these type of interactions, love, I always stop. I remember an incident a few weeks ago. I was driving down Columbia Drive, and there was a young king. He looked to be no more than maybe 20 years old. He was crossing the street with, I'm assuming, was his girlfriend, right? And she saw me approaching. She ran to get out of the way, cross the street.
Right.
The young brother slowed down as I approached, like he wanted me to hit him.
Some
Like
friction.
he
Yep.
and I'm looking at him, and he
Yep.
looking back at me like,
Yep.
I wish you would.
Yep.
Like he wanted some
Yep.
type of confrontation, right? Now the old me, I had to catch myself. Would have
Yeah.
went there and be like, either
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit you with the car, or
Get your ass
you know
out
what
the
I mean?
way. Yep.
But the father in me,
Right.
because I could see the young man was misguided and
Yeah.
hurting, right?
Yes.
I pulled over and said, "Young king, come here. Let me holler at you
Yeah.
real quick." He walked up to me and was like, what's going on? I said, "Man, look, I don't even want no problems with you, but I said, what you're doing is very dangerous. How you
Yeah.
carrying yourself
Yes.
is very dangerous.
Yes.
Where you're inviting a confrontation that you're not really prepared for."
Yep.
I said, given the fact that you're here with your girlfriend.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I know that we as men, we don't want to look punked or
Yep.
look weak in
Especially
the
in
presence
front
of
of a
our
girl.
woman. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So but you got a lot of brothers in the graveyard
Yep.
because of that type
Yep.
of that same exact scenario
Yep.
where they couldn't let anything go. He had too much pride to run out of the street, and
Yep.
I said, "Man, get off of that,"
Yep.
because that's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Luckily, he was able to receive what I said,
Yeah.
respectfully, and move on.
And
But
see-
some brothers don't.
Right. And see that what you did and how you moved, that's real shit.
Yes.
That's the stuff that's real shit. But it unfortunately, just right now in our culture, through a lot of the music, through a lot of what we see, the internet, and we as the people are making it go viral, right? Those that are entertaining it, a lot of what we see is not that, right? That's labeled real shit. The fights, the gunning a nigga down, the confronting over stuff that if you just use conflict resolution skills or manage yourself or looked at that other person as a human
Right.
and understood that unwritten rule amongst men that I'm respecting you because it's a necessity,
It's a
because it could
necessity.
start a war, right? The lack of this stuff has it where the the lack of how you move, seeing that more, calling that real shit, has it where the things that we call real shit ain't real shit.
It's
So
totally
it's like
backwards.
the fake and the bullshit is the new real, and the real is some shit that like, oh, you being soft, or oh, that's that's not important, or I always get the verbiage of, well, everybody ain't the same, everybody ain't. These are things that I don't give a damn about. The things that we're allowed to be different on,
Right.
they need to be understood as law in our
Exactly.
community, and
Yeah.
we don't need outsiders to set
No,
that for us.
not at all.
The stuff we talking about right now is not hard to
No,
understand.
it's not hard at all. It's not complicated. I want to touch on this because you keep making reference to culture, right?
Yep.
And I want us to definitely deconstruct that.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into the culture piece, what are some of the things that women need to be doing who may find themselves in this type of situations where they're raising young boys by themselves, who may not have the masculine energy? His father may not be in his life. They may not have, their brother or uncle or what have you. What are those women to do?
So first things first, women, we need to confront ourselves in regards to our mindset towards family.
Okay.
Right? And the idea is we have to really put at the middle of the table that men are valuable and they are, a necessity in regards to raising children and building a home. A necessity.
A necessity.
Right? Something
Not
that
an
is
option. A necessity.
A necessity. We are in a space, and I'm not speaking for all women, but it's not hard for all women to look about the world, and especially in our community, and see there is a shift in our view towards how valuable men are in us placing them as a necessity in family and in our lives. From a very basic level, and I've said this before on my platform, sometimes it goes over people's heads, but when you look at the world we live in and all the things that are a necessity for us to function as a community, as a country, as a state, as a city, right? Men are at the forefront of making sure these things work correctly. So when we talk about infrastructure, buildings, construction, roads, plumbing, piping, everything that has to do with the functions that are a necessity. Not these clothes and shit we got on, but literally the things that matter.
That are
the
essential.
toilet flushing when you go use the
Right.
restroom. The garbage trucks coming to pick up the trash when you put that shit outside. The structures we're in right now, the buildings not caving in.
Right.
The vehicles that we drive.
Right.
The way the engines are designed, the way this shit work. Men, when you look at just out and about, moving around, logistics, getting goods and services. You going on Amazon, or you ordering that purse or that backpack or them shoes you want. Men are at the forefront of these things running. So when we're raising children, boys or girls, we need to start with just being real about that. This world you see, women are powerful in regards to being responsible for every human walking. They came out of one of us.
Right.
But men are responsible for the ongoing stability of the world.
I call it the manifestation of the reality
Yes.
in the physical space.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we need to just, females we don't need men in the room to say
say
this
that,
to
to
ourselves.
acknowledge
Just
that.
be
Yeah.
a smart woman in the moment. Be logical in the moment. There's nothing that I'm saying that is a lie. You may not like it. It might not feel good. But we
Right.
don't need niggas to come in and tell us this.
Right.
We could look around and see.
Look- just
and
look
if we're
around.
honest,
Yeah.
as a majority, we're not going into construction jobs. We're not going to be underwater welders. That bridge you drive across in your city, you don't want that bitch to fall into the water and you die, right? Niggas is the ones signing up for those type of jobs.
Right.
Working out on boats and, oil wells and
Longshoremen.
things that have to do with just when you putting gas, just the basic level shit. That's not hard
The
to
logistics
understand.
of moving goods and services.
The first thing we need to do as women, regardless of how you've been raised, you take a woman with a 2-parent household, from in her upbringing, one that was raised with no daddy, one that may have trauma from men, whatever. Let's just sit at the table and be honest about the value of women and the value of men. There is a power we hold, but there is a equally necessary power that men have that we need. Right?
Yes.
When we start with that, if we can all just say, okay, that's a true statement, right? Women, we hold our own power. We are valuable. But men have their own value that is a necessity the same as ours. When we get that laid out, now we can start talking about, okay, let me look at my traumas and the things as a woman I need to work on within me that will help me be able to interact with men better. And the only reason I'm trying to fix this is because I know that they are a necessity. necessity.
Right.
So in regards to family, in regards to the way the world works, in regards to me having a well-rounded pool of resources as a woman, I need men.
Right.
Same way when you talk to a OG or a man that got some sense, he understands women are a necessity.
Right.
They are valuable.
Very.
And we need them. Especially when we look at just giving life as a basic level example, right?
Right.
And there is more to our power and why we're, a necessity as women than just giving birth. But that's just an example that, can't be disputed,
Yes.
right? So when we look at, okay, men are a necessity. Now, as women, what about your character, right? Your ways, your communication, your view towards men need to be looked at, and why? So this is when you look at your traumas, who raised you, what viewpoints, what beliefs do you have about men? And this is when I get into the problems with being raised by just a woman, especially a woman that has a history or a testimony of men doing her wrong. Because she 100% did not raise you to believe men are valuable or with the skills to be able to build a healthy relationship or a family with a good man or a well-rounded man or a stand-up man, because her story, her emotions, her testimony, her traumas don't allow her to.
Don't allow her to. What are some of the things that can happen to a woman who started off as a young girl without that father, right? Who may have never been in a picture or left at a very early age? What are some of the things that she in her adult life could actually be struggling with that she may not even know stems from the lack of fatherhood or lack of a father in her house or the masculine energy in general?
So first things first, misperceiving the intentions of a man. So from a very basic level, and women understand this, especially the ones with children, they understand this example pretty easily. In order for me to protect my children, if I'm a mother, right, they have to listen to me to a certain extent, or I have to have a certain level of influence, right?
Right.
So you see me and my children crossing the street, similar to the example you gave earlier. If I don't have any influence or my children don't listen to me, as we cross this street, there's a big possibility they could get hit by a car. So in order to protect them, I have to have a certain influence, a certain sternness, a certain
Authority.
level of control, certain
Yeah.
level of authority over these children, these
Right.
weaker vessels. When we talk about men standing up and being a man, when you did not have a father figure in your life, a lot of times you misperceive a man trying to maliciously control you or handle you a certain way, when in all reality, he's looking for that space of influence over you to protect and to provide. And when you haven't had that in your upbringing, you don't know what it looks like. So a lot of times when you do have a guy come in and he's trying to maneuver or set things up with you a certain way or get you to listen to him about certain things, you take it like, oh, this nigga trying to control me. Or these niggas is controlling. They always want to tell you what to do. He trying to run my life. I don't got time for that.
Right.
I don't like how he telling me and the kids can't go do this. But as you stated, there are certain types of men that understand this, and they know if certain things go on as a man, it's my duty to step up and protect. And a war could get started off of this woman moving in a way in rooms with men,
Right.
that it causes me to have to act. Or
Right.
that man feels like he has to act. And so things like this are not in this woman's mind. Her abilities to, really gauge, is this man for me? And are these things where he's trying to set the
some
family
boundaries.
up, yes, a certain way to be able to protect and provide? Or
Right.
is this one of those, males that are on some narcissistic or controlling shit?
Insecure,
So
right.
already, if you didn't have a father, you're going to struggle with this. You're not going to be able to go out in the world and just perceive these things the correct way.
The correct
right?
way.
And you could have been right about some men, but then there are times I can guarantee you were wrong about certain men in this particular area.
Yes.
The other part of it is conflict with men. When you have no father and you don't have that consistent experience, because when you have a father, you're going to have those moments.
He's your
where
point of reference.
conflict comes up, and this ain't how mama would handle it, and it feels different coming from a man. As
Yes.
a woman that was raised with my father in my life all my life, me and him disagreeing does not feel the same as me and my mama. It's a little bit more uncomfortable
Okay.
when you don't know this as a consistent experience.
Right.
So I know as a woman that has this in my upbringing, and talking to women that did not have this in their upbringing, that number two thing is struggling with how to take conflict with a man, because you will have disagreements with men,
right.
and you cannot approach them the way you would with a woman or your mother or your aunts
or like another man.
So you will struggle with these type of things, and the men around you will often say things like, I can't tell you nothing, or you don't know how to talk to me, or you disrespectful, and you may not in your heart as a woman at all intend to be disrespectful to this man. This is your normal ability to, deal with conflict.
Right. It's a muscle that you've never really had to work, and it's totally undeveloped.
So you don't have that muscle memory.
Yeah, you don't have that muscle memory.
A lot of women don't see anything wrong with the way they're handling the situations, or they don't see how they escalated it. Because men and women are very different in regards to ego and emotions and, standing our ground.
Even communication.
Yes.
Yeah. There's certain things that a woman can say, in the way that she says it, it causes so much damage emotionally to that man.
And she could be, this is what I talk to women about often, and it comes from, the same question you asked me. I'm only having this conversation with this woman because it is showing up in her adult life, and it is causing her not to attract the type of man she wants. But they are right. The woman in that moment, as I'm talking to this particular woman, or, just me giving an example of people I counsel, in that moment, she's correct about what she's saying the man is doing wrong. She's 100% correct.
She's 100%
when,
correct.
When she's giving me the scenario, she's right. She's wrong in every way on how she's going about communicating it to him. And she is every bit of the problem, just as much as he is. And it's difficult for women to receive that the man, so you telling me, love, he was flat out wrong from jump, but I'm just as wrong as him just because I said this, and this, and I ain't wait to say this. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know they struggle with that.
Yes, but when you part of the struggle comes with not being raised with a father.
Yes.
Because when you have a father in your upbringing consistently, you understand this with no problem. I understand this with it's not difficult for me to get.
You learn how to navigate with that masculine energy.
I cannot say things to my dad the same way I say things to my mom, and it could be the same problem.
Right.
He could be equally as wrong or off about whatever he said or did. I cannot approach him the same way. It will not, produce good results in the end.
You know that going in.
Yes.
And so you've learned just through the upbringing and learning how to navigate differently. And I use the word coalesce, right? With the masculine energy. You know what to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say, so that the space can be a place of peace and harmony.
Yes.
Right?
And it doesn't trigger emotions in me to see a man need different communication than women need. Doesn't bother me. So, in my relationship and dealing with my dad, my brothers, uncles, my fiance, I don't feel any kind of way about the fact that I have to rearrange my words or maybe sit for a second and figure out how the hell I want to say this because I'm speaking. I don't feel no type of way about that. I don't have because I know that I'm not equal to a man, and nor do I want to be.
Right.
I have no desire to do the things that y'all do, the jobs y'all take on, the responsibility behind protecting a family, jumping out in front of cars, or tackling a burglar, or stepping out in front of the family first, or I have no desire to do it. Y'all can have that shit. Keep that. And respectfully, sir, I will rearrange my words to keep you in that space so y'all can stay there. And this is what scares me about the direction that I see our culture going in.
That was
so
my next
many
question.
women are willing to be okay with a man taking the back seat and them leading, and I'm like, oh my God, these bitches gonna fuck this shit up. Before you know it, we gonna have to take fucking these jobs and these front running experiences with family that those of us that are women that want to just stay in our femininity, we don't need that.
We don't.
And then the other thing that it affects is our sexual side, right?
Okay.
So whether a woman is promiscuous or not, how she carries herself, and I'm not talking about how she dress, right? I'm not talking about the sexy we put on the internet for, to build our platforms. I'm talking about the penetration of a male inside of you, right? Fatherlessness affects women in ways where we will allow more or put up a unnecessary ass wall. So there is a overly sexual or retracted so far to where it's like, what are you, not trying to have any experiences with men? It's like one extreme or the other. When we don't have that, and a lot of it has to do with just the emotional effects of not having that consistent father love, that consistent male love. A dad is supposed to give that young girl her first experiences on how a man should treat her.
Right.
And there is a certain security in that. It's a certain, warmth.
Safety.
In that. Yes,
Yeah.
there is a sense of safety. There is a sense of knowing that I am safe in rooms with men,
Yes.
right? When I choose the right men. Women without that father experience, they lack that. And some get it out in the world through, crossing paths with men that are stand-up men, and then some never do.
Some never do.
Their relationship life is in shambles.
Is in shambles.
Because they don't.
Perpetually.
Yes.
Yes. Over and over. You touched on something that I think is so key. The women that oftentimes who were born into those types of circumstances may lack the ability to be governed.
Yeah.
Right? And being governed in the relationship is a whole world different than being controlled.
Yep.
Right? The governance stems from the fact that you recognize this person as a leader.
Yep.
As a person who can also speak to you about things that you may not see to help you navigate this world. Speak to how important it is for women to carry themselves in a way that regardless of what their income is, what their career status is, or what have you, being able to be governed successfully by a man is key in sustaining a healthy relationship.
Yes, especially with the type of men that we want, right? There are the type of men that we're settling for and that we're just accepting certain behaviors from. And then there are the type of men that we want. The men that stand up for family, that show up consistently when it comes to financial responsibility and just doing their part. Not perfect, because no man is perfect as no woman is. But to develop a healthy relationship, land yourself a marriage with one of those kind of men, you need that. And I feel like on the female side, we're not having this real conversation enough. We too busy talking about what y'all need to fix, right? Same as when I reference men need to have certain conversations without women in the room. This is the stuff that females, we need to talk about. And when we go back to what you said earlier, the modern day woman, those of us that we are bosses out in the world, we leaders, we got employees under us and things like that. We have to start having more conversations about how to separate that from home. Separate that from, when I go home with my man, I am no longer the boss of the hair salon. I am no longer the boss of the people that work for my event planning company. I am no longer the boss of the credit repair building down on the corner or the tax office. I'm home. I am a woman. He is head of household.
I'm a wife.
This is not about finances. This is about nature, nurture, what our roles are organically, scientifically, logically when you look at our build and our minds.
Okay.
And so we need to start really prioritizing this type of shit over the superficial stuff or the bottom level conversations we have about, hey, let me tell you what he did. No, let's talk about why I'm even with this type of guy.
Right.
Let's talk about why I'm attracting these type of men. Let's talk about why I have no boundaries with men. Why am I hypersexual? Why do I overly care to get in relationships with grown men and operate like they mama when I'm in a relationship with them? Why am I even okay with being in a household with a man that I can say all these degrading things about in regards to his earning ability or his ability to get up and make something happen for the family or be there for these children? Why did I pick that type of man? We don't want to talk about that. We don't want to say those words. We just want to talk about what's wrong with the men. And then when I say, okay, you know what? Fuck it. Let's not talk about us. Let's talk about what's wrong with these dudes. Okay, well, he this, and these niggas be doing this. And after we lay out all this stuff, I say, okay, let's talk about the root of where those men got that from. Because grown men ain't teaching men to act like that.
No.
Who's teaching these men? Who's raising them with these type of character traits? So we get back to they mama, which is a woman. So now let's get over here and talk about these women. Same subject. You didn't want to. I will bring this bitch full circle.
You can't
every
avoid
time.
it. Yeah.
And a lot of times the females don't see it coming in the conversation. Just chasing the squirrel. You ever seen a
Right.
dog that's supposed to be focused on playing fetch or something? Oh, squirrel, he over there running,
Right.
chasing something else. Now,
Right.
this is how we are in
Yeah.
conversations. Let's bring this shit home.
Let's focus.
Because every
Yeah.
bit of how men behave now in the dating pool and every bit of how women behave, it starts with our upbringing. And it's not an excuse to keep behaving this way,
Yeah.
but it is the reason that needs to be confronted, and solutions
Gotta be
need to be
addressed.
talked about in regards to that reason. We need to go back to caring about family.
What's the psychology of the woman who chooses the street nigga? Right? Where because I've encountered women that choose the street nigga over and over and over again, even though that type of man puts them through all kind of heartache and misery, right? Whether it's incarceration,
Right.
whether it's, God forbid, something worse than that, passing away or being killed, or even, constant women, other women in the picture. What is it about that type of man that's attractive to certain types of women?
So I'm gonna go deep a little bit, right? So if you look at the history of where we come from, and there's a part of our history where when you go back to like the deindustrialization period and things like that, where a lot of key jobs were lost, in especially for our people, right? We were doing decent at one point in regards to men working and having a known stability. Like I know
Right.
as a man I can go get a job, right?
Yeah.
The deindustrialization,
Yeah. Blue-collar jobs or what have you.
Right. So the deindustrialization happened in certain things with history that I'm not gonna go too far.
You can go as deep as you want. This is the platform for it.
Right. So check the history, but something happened, right, in history where, the black man going out and getting work became difficult, right? And then when you just fast forward a little bit and you mix the crack epidemic
Right.
and the, late 1960s, early 1970s governmental welfare programs that had certain rules that supported, women just not seeing value,
Right.
especially in our community, in the black man, and you look at what was going on with their abilities to easily find work, you've seen a lot of people, a lot of black men take to the streets. Not all,
Let me
but a good majority.
When I say you can go deep, you can, because a part of that deindustrialization happened as a result of black men not being allowed to be parts of unions.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so that's one part, but then also the inability to pass on those trades
Yep.
to their children, to
Come
their
on.
grandchildren.
Come on.
Right.
Yep.
That led to, and then like you said, then that wave of
Yep.
of drugs that gave them a secondary option to say,
Yep.
hey, if I can't make it in a skilled trades,
I
I'm
gotta
gonna take to the streets.
Yes. So now the reason why I had to go back to this part is because a lot of modern day women, a lot of women that, and men, I'm not just gonna say women that don't educate themselves.
They don't know
They
that.
think that, well, why these niggas don't want to work? And why are you don't ever talk about that, love? But see, I understand history.
Right.
And I understand what you're exactly what you're saying. I remember being in school and being taught this and then investigating it on my own
Right.
outside of what the teacher
Was
was saying. I
saying.
ain't just eat what they fed me. I
Right.
went and got my own food
Right.
as well, right? So I know a lot about that, about
Yes.
the struggles in our past and our history with people of color, especially men, in regards to unions and certain rights and
Right.
redlining and systemic racism.
All of that.
You can't
Yeah.
skip over this,
Yeah.
right? So when you just look at that part of history and you fast forward, right, and you've heard people say this before, but ain't no niggas brought no crack into this, meaning cocaine into this country, right? We might have cooked the crack, but we ain't. So these waves of this particular
Right,
drug
absolutely.
coming here from other places, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
it landed here, and like you said, I got to make money and feed my family.
Some type of way.
Right, and we're talking about back then, not right now, right? So a lot of men flocked to the streets and
streets.
selling drugs, right? And so the idea was there was not just bad boys in the streets. There were working men that had good intentions and good hearts that turned to that in an effort to try to feed their family or
Right.
keep their woman, because while that's going on, my wife or my woman or the female that I want to make a family with or I have babies with is being solicited by the government to just say fuck me
Right.
and get the aid or the support or the welfare she needs from them.
Right.
So I'm watching me be devalued, right, in regards to my value to the woman.
Right.
So I'm out here and, you got niggas flocking to the streets. And then, like you said, I'm not passing down anymore the skilled labor abilities or traits or trades to my children or the younger generation. I'm passing down how to cook crack.
Right.
I'm passing down the swagger of a dope boy.
Yes.
I'm passing down, and the same going on for women, I'm passing down how to get on welfare. I'm passing down the comfortableness of just getting your food stamps, your cash assistance, your, the health care that they give you, whatever
Right.
it have you.
Yeah, the
right?
subsidy.
And
Yeah.
so you fast forward now, we are, as men, right, choosing the street life to a certain extent based on having welfare-minded mothers, right, and fathers that are still in that misinformed space about employment and their abilities, and not having those conversations in those men groups about your power and you're able, brother. You able to create work, and you don't have to turn to the streets. So for females, right, when we talk about the welfare-minded woman or that
They called
overly
them welfare
independent
queens in the 80s.
yes,
Yeah.
there was. Yes,
Ronald Reagan.
Yes, 100%. And I know a lot about that.
Yeah.
Like we could go deep
Yeah.
in so many ways. But the idea is, as the woman, what is the easiest way to keep my benefits? Right? What type of man? I'm gonna reword that.
Right.
Should I choose to be able to keep this shit going on? Right? Keep the shit I'm getting for free from the government and my abilities to be able to get handed a lot of shit in life and not having to put forth work. What type of man? Is it easier to keep this with? Is it the working man that's going to want me to allow him to lead and advance in his career and take care of home, right?
Right.
Or is it the nigga that's going to have one foot in the streets and one foot in the house and could bring me quick cash? How the government give me quick cash? This is familiar to me, right? I'm used to waiting to the first and they hand me that check.
Right.
I'm used to waiting to a certain part of the month, them food stamps hit that car. I ain't got to work for that. I just fill out the application. I qualify, right? If I get me a street nigga, I qualify to just get some of that cash. I ain't got to do shit.
It's under
They'll
the table
give it
money.
to you.
Yeah.
They get it so quick, it come like government assistance.
Right.
And this is why you see, even on podcasts, a lot of, young women, they express, I don't want no 9-to-5 nigga. I need me one of them niggas that when I say I need $1,000, he can pull up and give it to me. Same way when you say you need them stamps, that bitch hit that card. You see them? So it's
That
it's
muscle
certain.
memory is serious, huh?
Listen, we're as women, we are not talking about this shit. And then there's always the bad boy aspect. There is that razzle dazzle. And see, when you go back to what I was saying about being raised with a father, it's comfortable for a lot of us to deal with a street nigga because half the time they didn't have a father that was a solid presence. So they don't care to be a solid
They
presence.
ain't trying to be that.
Yeah, they trying to be something in the streets. So I can get away with a lot more with this type of dude. I can get a lot of that extra free shit just off top. You can't go to a working man and ask for excessive or frivolous amounts of spending or money
Or
to do
advance,
bullshit because he has a serious goal or an organized plan for his money.
Got a budget.
And, yes, and his
he
family.
paying taxes.
And so we're to the point nowadays where women are frowning upon that. Oh, you got a budget? Oh, you can't buy me no purse today, not Friday when you get your check.
Right.
Like, and these are things that we really got to start looking at where we get these behaviors from.
The other part of it is, love, is that the street nigga lacks the ability to hold a woman accountable.
Absolutely. I don't have
and so
to.
she could stay
Yes!
she can stay undeveloped because how can he correct her based on what he's doing?
Yes.
Right? So
I can always justify my wrongs.
I can
if
always
you in the streets, if I'm me, and you,
especially if I'm pretty and I got a body on
Yes.
me, I can stay undeveloped because if it ain't you, it's gonna be your homeboy.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Somebody always gonna want me.
Yep. But also, see, take the aesthetics out, right? You're not doing right to begin with. So even if you catch me doing something wrong, nigga, your whole lifestyle wrong.
You see?
You ain't even supposed to be doing what even though I'm living off this shit with you. If you
It's
ever,
always thrown. It can be thrown back.
If you ever seriously confront me as my street nigga boyfriend, God damn it.
About my bad character.
About my bad character, or the way I'm talking to you, or what you, I got so many bullets in the chamber. Like,
he don't stand a
you
chance.
doing this, 5-5, you doing.
Right.
I never have to actually be accountable, make changes to my character. You can't hold me accountable. You can't
Look
correct
at what
me.
you're doing.
Look at what the fuck you're doing.
Right.
And there is a part of us as women, but deep down, we know that. We know that. This is why when I counsel, because I'm in the trenches,
Right.
I ain't just sitting up here saying this shit and trying to judge anybody. I'm in the trenches with this shit. I come from the projects. I understand the mindset of it. As women, we know in the back of our mind, I could, with that Tyrone or that street nigga Joe or Bob, we knowing in the end, I always have a certain level of control over this nigga based on him not living right. And this is why when people ask me about co-parenting and shit like that, like I was just talking about it on another podcast, it ain't hard for these women nowadays, especially when they birthing babies from street niggas, to keep a kid from you. I see it. I see the women tell the dude straight to their face, I'm going to tell them you sell dope. You better get the fuck from over here trying to tell me what to do with my kids.
Wow.
And so the idea is, I know that even a nigga in the streets adds value to the upbringing of a child. There needs to be agreements and understandings. Obviously, children aren't supposed to be around certain things, but then there are a lot of things that build character from having a nigga like that as your father. There are a lot of things that you can learn not to do, a lot of street smarts that is needed to navigate the world. Mm-hmm. Yes, because people tend to believe... you want your children to be raised on a straight and narrow, never have to experience certain things. But if you ever worked in corporate America or, a company that is owned by somebody other than you or your family, it is very street-like.
Absolutely.
It is very cutthroat.
Yes.
It is very... People going to snitch
the
like
politics,
in the streets.
Yeah, it is
Motherfuckers
politics.
is sitting with
Jockeying
you in the cafeteria on break and then going to HR telling
Behind
them some shit you doing to land a position over. It's very much like the streets.
It's very much like the streets. You're exactly right. So many jewels you drop in love. So many jewels. This aspect of culture, right? Let's deconstruct whether or not, because on this platform, I take the position that black people right now, we don't really have a culture. What we have is a subculture that we think is a culture.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we've been so disconnected from culture for so long. What we have now is based on our ability to just keep breathing in survival.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So can you speak to that point?
So there's the aspect of culture when you talk about our swagger as, African American people, as black people, as African people, you know what I mean, in this country, right? There is the, how we oil our hair, how we, do our fashion, how as black men, how y'all line your beard, how you got
how we show up.
There is a certain thing that is culture. When you look at how we do music, our rhythm, the way we able to move, the things about our skin, our aesthetics that we know is there, and it shows up in a rhythm. Like when you look at black women walk, when you look at how, black men are, when they walk, when they step into a room, how we get it popping, as you just said. There is that wonderful, beautiful, energetic part of our culture. Then there is this other side where we want to separate it out of culture, but it's very much a part of it in regards to how we treat one another, how we show up in communities in regards to unity, how we are so unwilling to be vocal and open about the real shit, the same way we are about the superficial shit. The way that we will come together for negativity, meaning like I can go round up the whole family to come beat your ass. You got some niggas you can call that it's like, bruh, it's time to go shoot. They grabbing the guns.
Right.
But when it's time to, hey, bro, it's time to come correct this young dude. Or, hey, ma, y'all come on. We need to talk to little cousin so-and-so because she moving wrong with the kids and she doing certain stuff with her baby. There is that part of our culture, because for me, it is in our culture because it's every bit of what we showing up every day and doing. Just like we doing these hairstyles and these clothes and you know what I mean?
It's a part of us.
Yes, it's a part of, and we have to just be real about that. It is a part of our culture and how we're moving right now. And the beauty of it is the same way we could change or evolve with the way we doing our hair and clothes, we can change and evolve just as easily with this shit. Yeah. But we have to be honest about where we're getting it from, the systemic shit that is also supporting us to operate this way, the real shit about the era of mass incarceration of our men and the certain things that we're up against in regards to jobs and employment. And we got to just take responsibility for all of it.
Yeah.
And just start having the conversations about solutions. It's a struggle to get to that in regards to our culture because when you start having these talks like we having
It's
about the problems,
uncomfortable.
it's uncomfortable.
It's very
People leave.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
I was at an event yesterday, and it was a beautiful event that Big Bank put together here
Yes.
in Atlanta.
Shout out to Big Bank, too.
Yes,
Yes.
I watched people walk out as shit got real.
Mm.
Like we had a live audience. A good, I want to say 30% started to leave as soon as the conversations got to the point of the real shit
Right.
with relationships. So it shows, like just being in that room, you could tell people don't want to hear the real shit. They want to let you sit back and allow them, right? They want to let you, because they're going to leave if they don't. So they're going
Right.
to let you sit back and allow them to just soak in the emotional part.
Right.
He did this
What
to
makes
me.
them feel
And then,
good.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, because we all about a fucking feeling.
Right.
Not knowing that feelings are to be managed, not to
Right.
run us.
Absolutely.
I run the motherfucking feelings. They don't run me. And this is for male or female. I feel them. I embrace them. I embody them. But they do not run my thinking abilities.
Right.
My abilities to show up, listen, learn, take a straightening or constructive criticism or
Right.
a new lesson or a different perspective. This is what is ailing our culture in regards to advancement. We advancing with clothes, with, music and certain things about our swag and style. And like you say, how we pop our shit, right? But there is a certain part of our culture that needs to be addressed with this shit.
Yes. Certain aspects of how we show up in a negative sense, it manifests itself in all types of spaces, right? But one of the things that you may mention is what I refer to as these extraneous forces that have been there for generations. And I say it's the 800-pound gorilla in the room that's been there so long, we think the shit is the sofa.
Yep. That it ain't
Because
there.
we think it's normal.
Yep.
Because it's just been there
Yeah.
so long. We walking all around the shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We think it's just a fixture
Yep.
that's supposed to be there, but that shit is so toxic
Yep.
to the relationship itself
Yep.
and to the longevity and sustainability of the black family. It's not even it's sad.
Yep.
You know what I mean? To your point that we can't get to having these real conversations. But the fact that you even brought it to the surface in terms of all of these forces that consistently destroy black men.
Yep.
Right? Ask those same women who may have grown up without a father, as far as they can think back, has there been any stand-up men in your family?
Yep.
If all of the men that you know, from your grandfather to your father, uncles,
Yep.
have been destroyed, it seems to me, right, as a black man who takes the condition of our people serious,
Yes.
you would have more black women thinking seriously about how do we stem the tide of this annihilation that's going on with black men, instead of just demanding black men buy me a fucking purse or some shoes or this type of car. You
But
see?
when I love what you're saying, because this is where the conversation gets real for me, right? As women, and I take this stance every time I touch, a seat in front of a camera, right? We have to do better as women, understanding what the fuck is going on, because we're not dumb. We are very powerful, intelligent beings. We give life, right? We produce the beings that you see walking around. Because I'm trying not to go too far into that, but what I'm getting at is we have to start being accountable as females.
There's a responsibility that comes with that in and of itself.
Yes.
If you're going to take the time to birth children,
and see, this is where I was going.
When does the responsibility end? When do you tap out? You know what I mean?
When you look about, and this is where I'm going with it. When you look about the world as a woman looking at the world, right? Every one of y'all that's walking came out of what is me.
Of a woman, right.
And so understanding that, right? How could you not care just because the person is an opposite gender? They came from one of us.
Right.
So your very views that you have about men are these same views that your son will experience when he becomes that man out in the world to another woman if we don't change our perspective.
Yes.
And so the idea is, when you talk about ignoring that elephant in the room or that 800-pound gorilla in the room, right? When we're used to it, we're used to My grandmother viewed men this way. My mother viewed men this way. My homegirls view men this way. I got people I can get on the internet right now, and they view men this way.
Right.
It becomes a norm.
Yes.
So the elephant in the room is not even, like you say, it's a couch. It's normal. It's this regular. What is Love Dorsey
It's so common,
talking about?
it's become normal.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you just emotionally go back to what makes you feel good, which is that group of women that are willing to support this crazy ass idea that men just got like this. Black men just overnight, they're all
On our
just
own.
choosing to
Right.
abandon their children. They don't want jobs. They just don't want to work. Nothing is making them do this, you know what I mean, besides their own mind, just deciding one day. So I guess somewhere in the mid, 1990s or a little bit before, they just decided, well, we're going to just abandon our babies, our families, just go be, you know what I mean, nothing. It's absurd. And,
It's
and
absurd,
for me,
yeah.
I challenge that women are that dumb, that our women are that stupid to
Yeah.
just believe that that's what the fuck's going on. When you look at the statistics in regards to, incarceration, black men make up the majority. We
majority.
can go back and forth all day of what percentage you happen to Google. At the end of the day, the fact is it's higher for niggas.
Right. Absolutely.
It's higher.
It's higher.
They all didn't just
And
get
always
in
been
there
higher.
by just everybody waking up one day and decide, I'm going to go just commit a crime.
Right.
I'm just going to go do that and just lock myself up. Like, that's
Right.
not the history of where that came from.
how
And
that happened. Right.
I challenge the idea that women are just going to pretend that we don't see this.
Yes. Yes. There's an aspect of who you are that reminds me of another queen from back in the day, and I'm gonna pose this challenge for you. There is a woman who made headlines and was attacked vehemently by black women based on her views in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. Do you know who I'm talking about?
So there's a couple,
Okay.
but drop that name on me.
Shahrazad Ali.
Yep, that's the first. That's the one that was right on the top of the top of my mind.
Now, I'm much older than I look, right? So I remember when Shahrazad was making her rounds on Phil Donahue and all of these talk shows in the late 80s, early 90s. And the people who primarily attacked her
Yep.
were black women.
Yep.
Because what she was saying was so counter to how they had been raised.
Yep.
Right? And even then you had the beginnings of the brokenness of the black family,
Yes.
and she was laying out some very uncomfortable truths
Yes.
about black women
Yes.
statistically.
Yes.
Right? And she was attacked. It was crazy.
Yep.
You know what I mean? When I go to your social media and I listen to the message, the inspiring to me message that you bring, and then I read the comments of how triggered
Yeah.
the majority of the time is women.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Explain to me where that comes, or explain to the audience where that type of vitriol comes from. From some of these women are our sisters.
Yep.
They're our mothers.
Yep.
They're our girlfriends
Yep.
and wives. But at the same time, we living with these women. We
Yep.
have relationships with these women. But they attacking you as if what you're saying is actually wrong.
Yep. 100%. So I'm gonna tell you two things, right? I am a supporter of her messages, meaning the overall what she stood for.
Yes.
And I've seen many people try to pick apart individual, interviews that she has had on certain things that, she says
Right.
that they disagree with.
Right.
But overall, what she stood for, 100%. 100% family,
Yes.
black families staying together with the intent
Right.
to make this the main goal in our communities for a majority of us.
Yes.
The same way you look at other cultures.
To
and
build
it is,
power.
Yes, and that is exactly what it is the intent to do.
Right.
It's not about one individual's feelings,
No.
right? So with that being said, that it's never about one individual's feelings. I'm never going to stray away from my message because I understand what I'm saying will bring power back to us,
Right.
our community, not one individual, but to us as a whole.
Collectively.
The other thing is on my platform, right, I not only give it raw, uncut, with no care for any one individual's feelings,
Right.
but I also give grace through counsel, right?
Okay.
So you may not get the sympathy or the grace you want on one of my lives or in the comment
Right, 'cause
section
you
or
going in.
my
Yeah.
DMs. But when you book a one-on-one, when you're in my Zooms, when you show up to one of the events I have, whether it's a free one or whether it's something you paid for,
Right.
I'm going to get in the trenches with you and help you continuously beat on certain points about your character
Yes.
until you fix it. Because to answer your question, the women are like that because they were raised and programmed and through a lot of systemic stuff, conditioned to believe that it's nothing wrong with that viewpoint.
And how dare you?
Yes.
Yes.
How dare I speak up and say what if you would, take that mask off or get out from under that program, and you would see
Yeah.
it's very logical. I'm not saying anything that's deeply intellectual in regards to our community, right? You don't have to go to college and get a bachelor or a master's
Just
degree.
look at what's going on.
Just
Yeah,
listen with a open mind
Right.
and feelings set to the side. Put your feelings over here, right?
Right.
And so for me, I know as they are triggered in the comments that they're triggered, even when they don't know they're triggered. I know that, you saying you hate me or you can't stand me or you wish I'd die or you wish my page would get blocked. I know that you're saying this on the surface, but really you just hurting. Sister,
hurting.
you hurting.
Right.
Girl,
right.
you triggered.
Yes.
It bothers you that I represent things that make your mother look like she didn't do everything correctly in regards to raising you. And I get it. She may be sitting next to you while you're watching this. And how dare I point out that a mother or a parent is doing something wrong in front of their child? How dare I say that your mama need therapy for the molestation she underwent or the lack of father or male role models in her upbringing or the trauma that her mother allowed or exposed her to based on not being adequately ready to parent her? How dare I bring up how you might have been raised by a child? Because some of us had kids while we were still a kid. Rather, it was through rape or through poor choices or through being steered wrong by those that raised us or lack of boundaries or, the older people not watching over us in that moment. I understand that it is how dare you spark this trauma?
Right.
And that is what they're upset at. So I don't take it, personal.
Personally, yeah.
And this is why I'm willing to, after being told these kind of negative things, given death threats and stuff like that,
Wow.
same as the woman you mentioned, I'm still willing to get in the trenches because I understand
Right. And
you're
show
not mad
that
at me,
empathy.
baby.
Yeah.
I give you grace because I understand where we get it from.
Right.
The same as what I'm saying about men. Women didn't wake up and just decide to dislike men and don't want the daddy around the child, or there were certain systemic things and things from where we come from that programmed us to be this way.
Be that way.
We just need to be willing to confront the fact that that shit's not right.
It's not right. On the other note, right? There's a whole series of black men with these platforms that have so much anger and resentment towards black women.
Yes.
Right? They call it, the manosphere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's that hate culture towards women, especially black women.
Yeah. Where does that come from? Are those men? Are they? Well, they probably have been raised by single women, right? But where does that particular level of vitriol? Because to me, it's just something to every conversation is beat up, bash a black woman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nothing seems to be balanced in the critique.
Yeah.
Of what they may get wrong and what they may get right. My thing is, for every example that you may have of a black woman doing something wrong, what are the examples of another black woman doing it correctly?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
If not her, then who?
Yes.
Are all black women fucked up?
Yeah.
Are all black women in mass
Right.
doing it
And
wrong?
we are not.
Point to some examples of those black women that actually get it right.
Right. And so you said part of it, a lot of those type of men are raised in, single woman headed households, or the ones that are not, their experiences with women early on have been frustrating. It's been hard to communicate with them, right? And these are a lot of the women that come from the single parent households, the poverty, certain boundaries are being violated, certain traumas that didn't get seen about. And then you have men that they may have came from a 2-parent household with the father. They're trying to date these type of women, and it becomes so frustrating. And then, I can't get through to her. She's degrading me. She's talking to me any kind of way. Like, basically, his inability to know that that woman is damaged and hurt and needs nurturing. Right? It pushes him to a space where, because he can't understand it, now you just go bash it. You just go
Let me create a platform and so I can just use the hammer.
Right. And the idea is that's not the solution unless you're coming with examples to these women on here is how to do it correctly.
Right.
Not just some, misogynistic male space where we just sit here and talk shit about women. There's nothing stand up or respectful about that.
Right. And that's what I've always wondered. I'm like, every healthy man wants to be in a relationship with a black woman. So at some point there has to be a black woman somewhere that's worth pursuing. But when I listen to some of these I'm like, y'all can't be in a relationship with a black woman ever talking like this.
Or you're taking advantage of one whose mindset is weak or they may be damaged and you just able to control
feed into that.
You're able to control the situation to where your narrative looks like it works. It is a lot of that going on, especially
manipulation.
It is 100% manipulation. And I will say, a lot of those men have valid points in regards to certain experiences they've had with women. But it is like you said, the idea that they all just fucked up and this is just, no, come with the solutions. Say that shit, which I'm a woman that I don't have a problem with a man pointing out anything that we can do better on, right? When we get to the part about do better, do you create an environment? Are you supportive of a space for me to do better?
I wanna touch on this thing with the Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis, right? This current scandal that's just not only sweeping Atlanta, but it's sweeping the whole country.
Okay.
Right? And with this Trump case and all of that. And I would like you to come from the perspective of the woman, because there's something unique that I see as a black man that really bothers me in this situation. And the fact that the person who she's, admitted to having a relationship with has been silent.
Yeah.
That's problematic for me as a black man, because I'm expecting a black man like that to take some level of responsibility, because it obviously takes two to engage in that level of relationship, right? So she wasn't on her own.
Right.
He was involved with her as well, but it's almost like there's zero accountability on his part. Right? He hasn't done any interviews. He hasn't made any statements. You don't even see him. You know what I mean? And it's almost like she's being left out to dry, so to speak, on her own. And to me, that even further undermines and undercuts the value of the black man.
The going back to culture, she can take it. Black women strong. We independent. She can take it. Save yourself. She'll be all right. And the reason why I'm saying
that's some bitch ass shit to me. I'm just being 100.
But who else says this about us? Men say it about us in their views when they abandon us. You don't have to say this verbally. A nigga never had to say this to me for me to know that that's how you feel, because I'm watching you leave these women with babies, leave these women with responsibilities, bills ran up to sort out certain stuff. So I know that's your view. She'll be all right, right?
She got it,
right? But who else says she got it? The black man says that, but who else says that?
Black women.
We say that. And this is why the fuck I be saying, hey, bitches, sit the fuck down. Stop saying that. Stop saying we super strong, overly independent. I can take care of my kids by myself. I can take on public scrutiny and fucking, legal shit. No.
Right.
Say, I need men to support. I need you niggas to show up. I need somebody to stand behind me. This press conference, come help my boy. These children, get here, sir.
Right.
This shit I'm going through, this stuff you see,
I shouldn't be
talking
dealing
about
with this by myself.
Come here, man.
Right.
Get over. We don't say that.
We don't say
I
it.
raised my son by myself. Me and my kids is good. We got it over. I don't need you.
Is
we're all saying it. It's my whole point.
Right. We all saying it.
Culture. It is the issue in our community.
Right. That's destroying
the things that family shows up for is not the shit we should show up for. We want to support after a bitch done wrecked their life and now they at the sentencing hearing and everybody when the lady gets to the courtroom and they finna take a job or sentence her, they'll come in there. To want to see and to show their support. She died.
Right.
They'll come to the funeral, put them outfits on and shit, get them T-shirts made with your face on the front. And I was related to her. Yeah, I used to fuck with her. Yeah, she was my first love back in the day. But when I was in the midst of the storm, or we were in a space in the community where you could show up and prevent my death or my incarceration, or
nowhere around.
And we busy. We got it. We strong. Listen. I am a strong black woman, but not in them motherfucking ways.
I say to myself, what? Because I'm always understanding that our children are watching, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're coming across this information in terms of, this whole scandal, our children are all aware of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the symbolism of her having to kind of like face this firing squad,
Mm-hmm.
whether you agree or disagree, that ain't where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the visual depiction of this black
Yes.
woman being by herself
Yes.
with no man.
Yes.
In a position of power,
Yep.
Fulton County, tremendous responsibility,
Yep.
millions of dollars in over a
Yep.
budget, you know what I mean? And she's having to deal with all of the fallout from this by herself.
Yep. Because as a community, like I said, she'll be all right. So I think she'll be straight.
And for him to leave her in that position,
she shouldn't took that kind of job.
That shit to me is just.
Shouldn't have did what she did. I'm telling you, it's embedded
But
in
nobody is even calling dude out on that.
Right.
Like, bro, where you at? And even when she did the press, what difference, because again, had he stood by her.
Yep.
Because if it was them other folks in that other culture,
Yes.
that man would have been, and that woman would have been right there.
They show up for
and they might be wrong as two left
yes,
shoes.
they show. Listen, we have a president with a son who's on what?
Drugs.
That man's
Still
all
supporting.
the way through.
Right.
Fucking what they call the leader of the free world.
Right.
And he's steady holding on to his
He
child.
ain't throwing him away.
He not.
Right. He not throwing him away.
Our community needs to change this view.
Yeah.
But it starts with women. Stop saying that we don't need men. Men, stop listening to us when we say this.
Yeah.
We lying. We're fucking lying.
Yes.
We take on these jobs, these roles, we put these fucking pantsuits on, and we go out and we try to make it look like we don't need a man. And to the point where other communities believe that we don't need our families.
Yes.
You got other races looking at us like, yeah, she that woman to be all right. It's certain traumas that black women have went through off of just the view that we created in our community for the view that other people have of our community, and we helped create it.
Superwoman.
Where they look at us like we'll be all right.
Yeah.
They don't come to our aid like they do other races. But we don't realize we support them not.
We've created that type of dynamic.
Yes, they look at us like she'll be all right.
Right. Yeah.
We saying she'll be all right.
And
they
she's
saying
being
she
destroyed.
will be okay. Yes.
Yeah, she's being destroyed. All type of emotional damage,
Yes.
psychological trauma, let alone what's being passed to the children.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because it's also telling them the fact that there's no man around. Move in such a way to where they don't even matter.
The other part, because you 100% correct, the other part of that is, in regards to the children, we don't realize that kids see when we ain't all right, even when we trying to act like we do. So even though you went and brought them, kids see when you are not all right, even when you trying to act like you all right. So even though your taxes hit and you finna buy them some Jordans and shit like that, like them kids know throughout the majority of the year, my mother is having a tough time.
Right.
When you check it out emotionally, there are periods of time, especially for us with our babies, we become emotionally unavailable and we are just a dictator, an authoritarian in the household, just making all the little people follow our rules enough to not get on our, get out my room.
Right.
Now it's my, leave me alone now, shit.
Right.
Trying to do, y'all getting on my nerves, clean up.
Right.
Like they can see, like, to the point where now they walk on eggshells a lot of times just to not do stuff to make mama mad.
Right.
You know, this is not a healthy upbringing. And you will get like this when you one person taking on the responsibility of 2, 3, 4. I wish I fucking might.
You know, love, it's crazy because these types of things are so common. You know, I remember me and my friends, right, growing up, we was comparing notes when we was in school as to what type of whippings we got,
right?
What type of trauma we endured, whether we got whippings with a belt, extension cord, you know.
And there's a it's like a science behind that shit, cause you know it's the whoopings where I'm gonna cry a lot so she can stop soon. It's the ones where I didn't cry and then she like, oh, you ain't gonna cry, and beat you harder. It's the ones where she tell you early in the day she gonna whoop you and then you got anxiety all day, and you don't know if she gonna actually do it or come home. Yes, come home tired. It's the my sister got a whooping and so I need to get out the room while she getting a whooping because I just might get a whooping just because I'm in there. She might just figure out something old and pop me with the belt. It's all this shit and a lot of it has to do with we got our ass whooped because the parent was overwhelmed.
We overwhelmed. Wow.
frustrated, emotionally unstable. That mother deserved her time for herself. And this is why, like, when you take like parenting classes and marriage counseling and, certain therapy sessions in regards to relationships, they explain that the role of a man in regards to a woman, when we talk about raising children and things like that, is to offer her enough support that she can care for the children in a nurturing, positive, patient
Yes.
way, a feminine manner. There
Yes.
is feminine authority that is so different
Yes.
from, and this is why we need that male-female dynamic. We need breaks.
Yes.
We need time. We need the space to stay in our femininity. And this is why when you see, like on a lot of those podcasts we were talking about with the men, they complain so much about women being masculine and overly aggressive.
Yes.
And then you see the women saying, well, y'all don't give us the room to be feminine. And then they
right.
argue about it. But really, all women are trying to communicate is that if we don't have that support, like just
Right.
in our own, we go rough
Right.
and tough, and we try to
no other option.
model you
Yeah,
guys.
right.
We try to imitate
Because they're
what we know is
right.
missing. Ain't no daddy here, so y'all ain't finna walk all over
They're
me.
imitating what they perceive as power.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
In the easiest way that they know it. But what it does unfortunately is produce more conflict.
Yes,
It takes her,
and
like you said,
trauma.
further out of her femininity so that she eventually loses herself.
Yes.
And no longer is able to even come back.
Yes.
Bitterness, brokenness, that level of woundedness. I've seen men. I mean, I've seen older women that have been bitter for so long.
Ooh,
they
come on.
damn near men
Yes.
because
Yes.
they've been so rough for so
Yes.
long. They don't even know how to get back to
Yes.
femininity.
And see,
everything about them has become
You preaching.
like a shell.
You preaching.
You know what I mean?
You preaching. And it's programming. It's the same thing I said earlier about
Yeah.
conditioning. Repetition of the same behavior will program and affect the mind to believe and be comfortable with certain things. And that's all it is.
That's all
you
it is.
sat in that
Yeah.
role so
So
long
long.
that now you can't even get out of it. And that is why when you hear people like me or you talk about this stuff, it's so triggering because they know they can't fix it. They know they don't have the individual
The
tools
tools.
without help to fix it. And then when you talk about therapy and things like that, they don't want to go because they don't want to be labeled. But they know that there is something wrong because they
Yeah.
knowing like this is why you don't want to go.
This is why you don't want to
when,
go.
when you know something is straight and somebody is saying do this, you'll go just
go.
to show and prove to yourself and
Right.
to the
That you
community
good.
and to that that I'm straight.
Right.
Take
But-
me to the communication counseling. Take me to the couples therapy.
Right.
Take me to I ain't scared of no rooms of shit
Right.
with no new
I'ma put it out
information
there.
come on, because for me, every bit of anything that's wrong with me, I want to fix it for
Flush
one.
it out.
So I'm never
Yeah.
gonna get in there and feel no type of way that you
Right.
brought me here if I am wrong. And for two, if I genuinely believe I'm doing well or operating the way I'm supposed to,
It'll show.
the fuck I'm scared
right.
for.
Yeah, it'll show.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
At the most, I will go, or at the least, I will go and get validity on what I already knew.
Right. The confirmation.
But they don't want to go because they know something is wrong. And see, on my platform, I help. There are women as old as I have a woman in my book club. She's like 65.
Okay.
And exactly what you just described, she admitted not too long ago in one of our meetings that was her. I have women well over 50 that they, through my teachings and the stuff on my platform, they've learned to get out of that masculine role where otherwise they would have been doomed
Yes.
because they weren't even thinking that it was an issue.
Yeah. Wow.
We have to, and men need to be more understanding to this. And I'm not saying like be more understanding to, not speak on it or let women get away
Right.
with it, but be more understanding that that woman needs help.
Yeah, empathetic.
Yeah, she needs help.
Show that empathy.
She's not a
Yeah.
terrible person. A lot of times we don't even want to be like that. It's just life was
Life,
lifing,
yeah.
and we felt we had to show up that way.
We took
and then
it,
we
yeah.
had no family or support system that was real enough. You might have had family or a support system, but they weren't real enough to tell you, hey, that's not femininity.
Right.
That's not how to mother from a woman space. That's you trying to imitate or model
With
what you
some
believe
trauma.
to be authority and create order and control in the house. It does not work. I watched some people my age, because I encouraged them to talk to their parents about stuff they did that didn't work. It was the most around in circles things and even, for example, me and my fiance have talked about this. Like, how you younger and, your parents want you to eat that food on that plate. Right?
Right.
They don't realize that the belief or the paradigm of finishing the food on your plate, a lot of it came from like the ancestors or the elders that came up during the Great Depression in times where food was scarce.
Right.
Money was, there was a scarcity.
Right.
So you ate everything on your plate because of that. And there's a teaching behind that on not being wasteful. But
Right.
during that time, they couldn't be because
Right.
there was a lack of
Right.
food, right?
Right.
When you fast forward, a lot of us went through, and because me and my fiance were talking about this, we went through that where they sit your ass at that table and don't get up until you eat.
Finish. Right.
And in that moment, they felt like they was teaching something.
Right.
But then when I got grown, this is the very reason why I go to the restaurant, eat half, and do a to-go plate. Just because you kept fucking with me with that stupid ass shit. Or I waited till you went in the room and threw that shit in the garbage can, behind the refrigerator, in the motherfucking trash. I got rid of it because, bruh, what you was doing did not make sense for this day and time.
Right.
We have to evolve and stay up to date with
Yes.
parenting, with relationships, with what we know about how to operate in our community, being
Yes.
better people to one another. You can't just repeat certain shit, just because it was done to you, but you also can't forget the lessons and the valuable stuff from history either. It's a balance.
Absolutely. It's a balance. What you do for us is a labor of love. It's a labor of love. How can they contact you? Because I know you mentioned the counseling and the therapy. How can they contact you?
So, for one, if you're genuinely looking for, help, you can text 678-965-0698. You can book yourself a one-on-one phone call. I have book clubs. I have a mentorship program. And I don't just talk about this kind of stuff.
Right.
I bring in, for example, my book club, they get the knowledge on credit and understanding financial literacy. I have somebody coming in to talk to them about life insurance and investing. Just multiple streams of income, how to budget, setting up family structure, all of that. So you can text 678-965-0698 for any of those things, even booking me. The other part of it is on Instagram, you can find me under love_Dorsey, Facebook, Love Dorsey. Really, if you just Google Love Dorsey, everything comes up.
Everything comes up.
Yep. Because I'm so active with this. And it's funny because when I get going, because like I said earlier, you said it beautifully. But when I get going, a lot of people are like, okay, all right, calm down. This is calm.
No, that's your
There's
passion.
another level.
They
Is calm.
They say that about me too.
Yeah.
Certain conversations I just get in my bag.
Yeah.
And it'd be hard for me to even stay in the host role,
Yeah.
right? Because I get so passionate.
Yes.
You know what I mean? With no notes, I get them downloads and it's
Yep.
just go.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I get it.
Yes, and I'm like, this is not anger or emotionally triggered or any. This is passion for wanting my
It's
people to
love.
do better.
Yeah.
This is me as loud and as often as motherfuckers is presenting the wrong shit
The
to
wrong.
do.
You gotta be
I got
just
to
as-
get in the
yes.
trenches and be just as energetic the way they are. The same way they get on them rap songs and kill a nigga, fuck a nigga up, dude. I'm on there. We need men. We need this. We need.
Right.
I'm right in the rhythm. Same
Right.
shit. I ain't
Same.
mad at them and they
Right.
can't be mad at me.
Absolutely.
We pacing.
Relax and take notes, family. Love Dorsey. I told you we was gonna bring the real. The bottom of the motherfucking bullshit. You can't be no
Yes.
stranger to this platform. We gotta
At
have
all.
you back.
I love the conversation. Anytime you want to have me back, I'm here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Queen.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.